Da 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 da. So we are going to talk about different scenarios and what type 1, type 2 errors would mean. We have here when the null is true, when the alternative is true, and we have fail to reject and reject. And our types of errors along with confidence and power. So let's start with the most common example. Someone is accused of a crime. Let's make it murder so it's more interesting. Serious murder, like a bus full of children crashed into a convent that made chocolate. Okay? So, according to the American justice system, when that accused person walks into the courthouse, what do we assume? What is the null hypothesis for them? They are blank unless we can prove they are, well, and in the American system, they are innocent until proven guilty. Can we imagine a country where you are guilty if you're accused of a crime unless you can prove your innocence? And I've heard they exist. I want you to imagine for a second how scary that would be. We in America like the idea that if you're accused of a crime, everyone assumes you are innocent until they can actually prove your guilt, or if you're rich. Now the question is, how much evidence do you need? Do you need a lot of evidence or little evidence? And what they tell jurors is that if you declare them guilty, they should be proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. That's the American justice system. Now, that statement right there is a statement about alpha. What is it saying? Well, let's decide. If the null is true and if the alternative is true, what do these universes mean? Well, this universe is where an innocent man was accused of a crime. This universe is where a guilty man was accused. You live in one of the universes, but you don't know which one. Imagine you're on the jury. It's your job to decide, are we in this universe or in this universe? But the truth is not something you get to pick. You only get to decide which one you think is the truth. You get to decide fail to reject and reject. Let's start with reject. If you reject the null, what do you declare? Rejecting the null means you think this is the universe and that he is a guilty man, and so your declaration is guilty. Notice what happens if you fail to reject the null. Fail to reject the null says, I accept that I could be in this universe where the man is innocent. You do not come back and say, we the jury find the defendant innocent. That's not the wording that's ever used. It's always, we the jury find the defendant not guilty. You use those words specifically for the same reason in statistics that we say fail to reject the null. In the courtroom, he started as innocent. It could be you just don't have enough evidence to show the guilt. If there's not much evidence at all of anything, then you declare not guilty. You don't declare innocent. You don't prove innocence in the courtroom. You only prove guilty. And for statistics, if you start with a null hypothesis, you can't then prove the null hypothesis is true. So we have 4 stories here. 2 of these stories are good stories. 2 of these stories are very sad stories. Let's start with this one. Here we have an innocent man who was accused of a crime, and the jury comes back with not guilty. This is an innocent man declared not guilty. That's a good thing. This is confidence. An innocent man goes free. What does it mean to have a confident juror? A confident juror looks at a person and just says, I can tell they're innocent. And they're a very trusting person. Now, sometimes a confident juror will get fooled. He really looked innocent and he wasn't. But if an innocent man comes in the courtroom, a confident juror says, I can tell that man is innocent. Let's do the other good scenario, power. Power has a guilty man who is declared guilty by the jury. That means power is when a murderer goes to jail. That's also a good thing. A powerful juror looks at someone and says, I can tell they're guilty. Now, a powerful juror might look at an innocent person and also declare them guilty, but if you're guilty in front of a powerful juror, they're going to call you guilty. By the way, my mother is very powerful. She'll walk in a room. Did you snitch the cookies? No. Did you reach in and steal 3 cookies? No. Did you eat 2 of them and you have one behind your back? How do you know that? That's incredible. She's very powerful. Now, the other 2 scenarios are bad scenarios. Here is a type 1 error when an innocent man walks into the courtroom and the jury declares them guilty. That's bad. We have someone innocent in jail. Here we have a guilty person who walks in and the jury says not guilty. That's bad. They committed a crime and were not punished according to the law. So both of these are bad scenarios. Let me paint for you a picture of what this means. The person walks into the courtroom as innocent, and then the jury listens to evidence. Evidence like, you said, I'm going to kill you to the guy. Oh, really? Yeah, but I say that to everybody. Oh, okay, that's fine. But how about the fact that you wrote a book showing exactly how you would do the murder? Oh, really? Yeah, but that's not how the murder was done. Oh, okay. Because it was on a Tuesday instead of a Friday. Huh? So, as a juror, you sit there and listen, and the evidence sways you more towards guilty or innocence. And where you set your alpha level says, how much evidence do I need? If your alpha level is here, it doesn't take a lot of evidence. If your alpha is here, it takes more evidence. Because the higher the alpha, the more likely you are to have a type 1 error where an innocent man goes to prison. Which of these two things is worse? That's your personal opinion. According to the US law, you're supposed to not have any doubts left when you convict someone because we want to minimize this. We want to drop our alpha level. Beyond a reasonable doubt says alpha level should be 0.0001. Could you disagree with that? Yes, and some people do. Some countries do. Some countries use large alphas. If there's any evidence at all, then we're going to convict you. The payback to that is those countries often catch their criminals. In the US, because of this, we often have more type 2 errors where guilty people can go free. Because we've taken this line, and instead of here, we've drawn it way out there. Well, all these people who had a good deal of evidence, just not quite enough, they end up going free. And that's the way our justice system works. Now, are you ready for me to scare you? It's a long video, but I think this is worth it. If you've ever watched CSI, they try to prove whether someone's a murderer or not by looking at the average amounts of tin in a bullet. And they take a bullet from the accused person and a bullet from the victim, and they say, do these bullets have the same or equal amounts of tin in them? And they do a statistical test, and they use a small alpha for the reasons I just explained in the last movie. The alternative would be mu from the accused does not equal mu from the victim. And they use a small alpha. Let's figure out what this table looks like using this. What does it mean if the average is equal? If your bullet equals what the victim had in average tin levels, then you're going to be convicted of murder. And the CSI evidence is very strong. They've studied whether jurors are swayed by this kind of thing. The answer is, oh yes, statistics are very powerful in the courtroom. That means the null hypothesis is guilty. The jurors are told they're innocent until proven guilty, but CSI sees you as guilty unless they can eliminate you as a suspect. That means in America, you kind of are guilty unless you can prove your innocence. What happens if the bullets kind of match? Not completely or perfectly, but pretty close. It's going to be the null hypothesis that wins, and CSI is going to say, we thought so, we need to convict this person. Now that's because if they really are guilty, we want to catch them. That's their job, that's what makes them happy. Now, if a type 1 error happens, the bad guy got away even right under CSI's nose, that's a big deal to them. So they purposely like having the alpha is very small. But if your alpha is very small, the payoff is beta is larger. There's more innocent people being put in prison. And statisticians are having a fit about this, and because of that, you can no longer use bullet tin average amounts in capital cases in court to try to convict someone of being a murderer. You can still do things like the striations, where you match up the scratchings on the bullet, which has the exact same problems. What if they don't match up perfectly, but they're kind of close? The null hypothesis wins. And this is a big deal. There is currently a lot of controversy still on this subject, but there is a solution. The solution is to use statistics. The solution is to flip these, and there is a way that they can do that. And until that happens in America, you're guilty until proven innocent. But with this class, with statistics, we can save innocent people from prison. We can help people feel safe in this country where they don't have to fear murders.